Haiti-United States relations are bilateral relations between Haiti and the United States. According to the 2012 U.S. Global Leadership Report, 79% of Haitians approved of U.S. leadership, with 18% disapproving and 3% uncertain, the highest rating for any surveyed country in the Americas. Because of Haiti's location, Haiti has the potential to affect the stability of the Caribbean and Latin America and is therefore strategically important to the United States. Historically, the United States viewed Haiti as a counterbalance to communist Cuba. Haiti's potential as a trading partner and an actor in the drug trade makes the nation strategically important to the United States. Moreover, both nations are tied by a large Haitian diaspora residing in the United States. Then U.S. Secretary of the Treasury Alexander Hamilton, 22, and other Federalists supported Toussaint Louverture's revolution against France in Haiti, which had originated as a slave revolt. Hamilton's suggestions helped shape the Haitian Constitution. In 1804, when Haiti became the Western Hemisphere's first independent state with a majority of the population being black, Hamilton urged closer economic and diplomatic ties. 23 Hamilton and Timothy Pickering worked to convince John Adams to appoint Edward Stevens as the United States Consul General in Saint-Domingue from 1799 to 1800. Adams sent Stevens to Haiti with instructions to establish a relationship with Toussaint and express support for his regime. The Federalist administration hoped to incite a movement toward Haitian independence, but Louverture maintained a colonial relationship with France. Stevens's title, consul, suggested a diplomat attached to a country, not a colony, reflecting the Adams administration's view of the Haitian situation. Following his arrival in Haiti in April 1799, Stevens succeeded in accomplishing several of his objectives, including the suppression of privateers operating out of the colony, protections for American lives and property, and right of entry for American vessels. Stevens pushed for similar privileges for the British, who, like the United States, were engaged in conflict with France. Negotiations between Haiti and Britain were difficult given Haitian apprehension about a possible British invasion and Britain's fears of the revolt leading to unrest in the British West Indies. Stevens was forced to serve as the British agent for a period since the Haitians remained opposed to allowing a British official to land in the colony. The convention, signed on June 13, 1799, continued an armistice among the three parties and gave protections to British and American merchantmen from Haitian privateers, in addition to allowing American and British ships to enter Haiti and engage in free trade. Following the Federalist Party's defeat in the 1800 United States presidential election, the United States under President Jefferson withdrew diplomatic recognition from Toussaint's autonomous government and worked to curry favors with the government of Napoleon Bonaparte. After Haiti gained its independence from France in 1804, the pro-slavery southern U.S. worried that would influence slaves in the U.S., and the U.S. refused to recognize Haiti's subsequent independence until 1862. After the Southerners in Congress had departed for the Confederacy, President Andrew Johnson suggested annexing the island to secure influence over Europe in the Caribbean. The U.S. government never followed through but posted active military on the island. In the 19th century, people who were mixed race and blacks often entered into conflicts and called on foreign intervention. According to historian Hans Schmidt, the U.S. Navy sent ships to Haiti 19 times between 1857 and 1913 to protect American lives and property, until the United States finally occupied Haiti in 1915. 330–331. One example of a U.S.-Haiti conflict was the Mole St. Nicholas affair. From 1915 to 1934, the U.S. Marines occupied Haiti. Prior to the occupation, the U.S. military had taken control of the banks and collected $500,000 to hold in New York. The Haitian Constitution was written in a manner that prevented foreign entities from owning land or operating in Haiti. However, as a result of the occupation, the U.S. had influenced the Haitian government to rewrite the Constitution to repeal an 1804 provision that forbade foreigners from owning land in Haiti. The occupation impacted the nation's economy as well as the people's self-image and independence. Ultimately, Haitians united in resistance of the U.S. occupation, and U.S. forces left in 1934. Left behind was a newly trained Haitian army, the Guard, with mostly black soldiers and mulatto officers, who dominated political office until 1947. From 1957 to 1971, François Duvalier governed Haiti under a repressive dictatorship. But some argue the U.S. tolerated the regime because it was staunchly anti-communist and a counterbalance to communist Cuba during the Cold War. When Duvalier died, his son, Jean C.